Hello everybody. If you were living in Thatcher's Britain and you were a pub landlord, you would almost certainly have been driving a Jaguar XJ6. But equally, if you were a First Division football club manager, you didn't have yourself no peasant's XJ6. Oh no, you got one of these, a Daimler Double Six. And I say Daimler and not Daimler because the internet has told me off and I've learned my lesson. The two companies may sound very similar, but they are not the same. Daimler, in case you weren't aware, was a brand that's existed for an awfully long time. It's currently dormant, but it was a feature on the automotive landscape for about as long as there have been cars. In fact, in 1902, they received a royal warrant, meaning that for a very long time, half a century in fact, the royal fleet was Daimler's. Now, in the sort of 50s and 60s, they changed hands a few different times, being owned by BSA and other companies, and then eventually being merged in as part of Jaguar, who decided to use the Daimler name as a trim level. So for a very long time in most markets, with the exception of the United States, the Daimler was your top level Jag. And this particular model has an interesting story. It's essentially a Series 3 XJ. That particular car came out in 1978, yet these were still found in showrooms until the mid-90s. The Jaguar version was actually replaced in 1986 with the XJ40 based car. This particular car is a 1991 registered example. Why is that? Well, pretty simple really. Some people apparently just have to have a V12. Don't know what sort of silly person would want to do that, but hey ho, there you go. And the simple fact was, you can't get a V12 engine in the front of an XJ40 generation XJ. So the Series 3 based Daimler soldiered on as the flagship car in the Jaguar stable for a good few years. It's an odd vehicle this. It's a very, very strange item because it's hard for me to say who would actually want one. Now, this particular car has been in the stable of Andy, and he wanted one because, well, he loves Jags. And evidently he's also strange enough to want one with a V12 in it. If you weren't aware, this is a 5.3 litre lump that Jaguar used for quite a long time. They introduced it in the Series 3 E-Type. It then powered a number of XJS's and various other cars in the fleet. If you want to go crazy, you can bore it out and do all sorts of mad stuff with it, but this is pretty much as it would have left the showroom. In fact, this particular car was supplied to a showroom in Japan, and he chose to buy an import because it was pretty much the best way to find one of these in reasonably clean condition. As you might expect, as with a lot of British cars of this period, rust is a common problem with these. Fortunately, most are now of the age where they've either dissolved or they've had enough money spent on them that they're actually reasonably good cars. And compared with many other classics, they actually seem to be pretty good value. In fact, this particular car is up for sale on Car and Classic right now for about 12 grand. What's surprising me about this car is how nice it is to drive. Now, it has had quite a bit of money lavished on it by its owner. The steering is actually very good for a big old barge. This is no flyweight at all, and it was never designed to be the sharpest handling car, but it's got just that little edge that you'd hope any Jaguar product might. In terms of outright grunt, it has something like 300 horses from the comically named HE version of the V12. HE standing for high efficiency. So what do we mean by high efficiency? Well, the trip computer is currently claiming we're doing 14 to the gallon. And I didn't even have my foot on the throttle. In fact, when we went out this morning, I said to Andy, have we got enough fuel? And he said, well, how far are we going? I said, about 40 miles. And he sort of went, oh, I've only got one of the tanks full. I better put some more in. If you want an efficient car, this is not it. He looks at my Ferrari 550 with lusty eyes. It's basically a Prius in comparison to this old bus. If you're George Best's boss, you didn't really care about that sort of thing. You want it to look good, and believe me, in a Daimler Double Six, you are going to look very good indeed. This is a sensational car, and it's in the right colour of Jaguar Racing Green. Absolutely magnificent. There are, regrettably, only the 3 speeds in this automatic transmission, and I can confirm that it doesn't really make an awful lot of difference which of them the gearbox is in. It doesn't. But it's just not that kind of car. This is a car about maintaining speed, and I've driven 3 different cars down this road today. A Maserati Gran Turismo, a Jaguar XK convertible, and this. This actually is a little firmer than the XK. Only a little, just the littlest amount. Seems to have better body control too. It was really quite surprising. As with most cars designed in the 1970s, visibility is excellent because if we have a crash, we will die. But the idea is that because you can see everything, you won't actually have a crash at all. I mean, it's reasonable logic, until somebody comes and runs over you in a Fiat Multipla and there's just a sort of green dust and bit of Connolly leather left of you, and they get out their car wondering what on earth that was. Yep, foot's planted now. The gauges are moving. Unfortunately, the 2 gauges that are moving are fuel and temperature. Oh well. There's some nice features in here. You've got electric windows and the world's most depressing trip computer, which not only looks awful but gives you numbers that you just don't want to know. I want to look at the clock. I want the clock. There we go. That can't be the clock, because if it is, it's currently 38 minutes past 28. It's 10:21, which it's also not. Never mind. It's British. They can't get everything right. What do you think Jaguar are? Miracle workers? Heavens no. Oh, in the bends though, this thing is absolutely lovely. Really weights up quite nicely. Steering is far more direct than you might expect a sort of 3-decade-old luxury car with a big V12 up the front to be. It does have, as much as I might joke about it, quite a few good things going for it. It's got quite a bit of room in here. It's not huge inside, but you can sit 4 people in pretty good comfort, this being a long wheelbase car. You've also got quite a bit of space in the boot, the same as many cars of this period. Very long, very wide, not very tall. Excellent for poster salesmen, that sort of thing. But believe me, you get this car to about 50-60 mile an hour on a B road, and it is just the happiest thing. I haven't really tried the brakes. They are also slightly terrifying, by the way, because despite the fact this car was obviously meant as an automatic, the brake and throttle pedal are very close together. And I mean, like, I drove a Ferrari 360 last week and this is about the same. I'm wearing my comfy shoes and that evidently was a mistake in this car. Pretty quiet in here as well. You get a little bit of wind noise, almost no tyre roar at all because they're nice, big sidewalled, thin tyres. Just the way it tips in is just beautiful. You feel it move it around just a little bit. It's delightful. You can steer it just like that. And this honestly wasn't a car that I really thought that I might like, but actually it's got a lot going for it. It really does. And at this point in time, I should probably mention that Andy is one of the guys who runs the Jaguar Enthusiast Club. So if this is the sort of thing that floats your boat, you should probably get in touch with them, and hopefully next year they'll be putting some events and things on where you can come and meet all the team and see lots and lots of cars like this, and indeed get information on how to buy a good one. Because trust me, like all old British cars of this period, if you buy wisely, you'll probably have a good time. If you buy badly, you definitely won't. Power doesn't have any. In all fairness, it does get up to speed eventually, but oh yes, what a delightful thing. View out the front is sensational. So smooth, so composed. In so many ways, later Jaguars, later cars, just far better than this. But because there wasn't too much to distract the people that built this, you know, things like making the car hold together or not rust, stuff like that, they got certain things absolutely right. And the way this car rides and the way that it steers, is as good as any luxury car you will ever find. Nay, better than probably any luxury car on sale today. I've driven all the way down here in a lovely, fancy, brand new 2020 Audi with air suspension and all the gubbins. Nowhere near as purely comfortable as this. Might not feel perhaps as luxurious as some other Jaguars that I've been in. Some of these materials in here do feel a little on the cheap side. The leather in here is an upgrade over what you get in your regular Jaguar, but still, it's not going to blow you away. It's no Bentley on that front. But it also doesn't come with Bentley running costs. So there we have it. An odd, unusual car for me to drive, but one I've certainly enjoyed. This is a Daimler Double Six. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment below, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you all for the next one. Bye-bye.